My name is Alex. This is my tiny house. It is 26 by 10. It's built by California Tiny House. I'm currently living alone in it, enjoying it. I do have some roommates that are not human. I have a iguana, a tarantula, a snake, and 2 cats. And hopefully soon I'll be able to bring my German Shepherd here. The exterior is redwood. I really love the look of it, but anybody that's looking to go tiny, I would recommend possibly considering other options. Just because it is a bit of work to maintain it. To maintain it, I had a stain it after 2 years. The sun damage on it was wearing the stain down. So it took me quite a while to restain the whole thing in between working two jobs. So you guys are welcome to come into my tiny house. So this is my tiny house interior. It was mostly inspired by a farmhouse theme. Over here, I really wanted to make sure that I got this in because I have been starting to collect records over the past few years. And I got a few of my favorites here. I'll just put them on my record player. Then we have my tarantula. This is Vinyl. He is a Brazilian black tarantula. And he's just a baby, so hopefully soon he'll be a big guy. Then we have the couch. I didn't actually get a couch until about a year ago, just because I was so focused on paying everything off. But again, just inspired by kind of a farmhouse vibe. I did have to add this because these little creatures have shredded my couch, and I've tried to mitigate it as best as I can. So we'll see how long this lasts. And then I have some art from an artist on Instagram. It's one of my favorite singers, which is Amy Winehouse. Music is a very big inspiration to me. I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially, whatever emotions or things you're dealing with in life. There's always a tune that you could play and really resonate with whatever you're going through. These are my 2 little gremlins. They are a handful sometimes, but I love them a lot. This is Dinah, and that is Hathaway. Dinah's a Sphinx. She was mixed with a bobtailed cat, so she doesn't have a tail. That was part of the breeder's program. And then this is Hathaway. He is an Oriental Shorthair. And I just got him recently. They're still trying to get along and work those kinks out. Well, I live in the Bay Area, so I'm pretty sure you've heard it a lot that it's crazy expensive. I'm pretty sure that's the one comment everybody makes about the Bay Area. And I had been living with my parents pretty much all my life, and I was at a point where I really wanted to get myself out of that, kind of push myself forward. And I was kind of debating, do I want to rent? Do I want to try to buy a house? And then I saw videos on YouTube of tiny houses. I'm like, oh, this could be interesting. And I just kind of went down the rabbit hole, as they say, and kind of became obsessed. And I think part of the appeal is like, oh, you got to kind of customize it to your who you are and what you're planning to use it for, and your personality. So that was a big appeal. And I thought about rent. Where am I going to be able to rent and have all these crazy animals? So that was a big thing. And I was calculating back and forth how much I would be spending on rent throughout the years versus how long it might take me to kind of pay off the tiny house. And ultimately, kind of the tiny house one. I can do whatever I want with it. If this parking spot doesn't work out, I can tow it. So it just seemed like there were more pros to going tiny than renting like an apartment or a house or things like that. And then I have one of my favorite things in my house, which is a record player. So I could just bring any record that I have over there, whatever I'm in the mood for, whatever I'm feeling, and then just put on a record and let it play. And then I can also hook it up to my speaker. This is a couch that they barely use, but it looks nice. So that was the reason I bought that. So this is my guest loft / storage loft. So currently up here in this loft, like as I mentioned, it's not really furnished yet, but I'm working on it. Currently it just occupies one of the litter boxes for the 2 cats and my snake Sinatra. He's a ball python. So this is my ball python Sinatra, and my cats are always very curious about him. Relax, it's just a snake. And I've had him for about 7 years. So pretty much all my pets, I really enjoy getting them as babies because then I really get to bond with them and kind of see their growth. And it's always the craziest thing to like look back at pictures and see like this tiny little thing that fits in your wrist and then end up with something a little bit bigger. It cost me, I think it was about $115,000. Part of that was because of the materials. I do wish I was a little bit more practical going into it, just because I think it's very easy to get sucked into like Pinterest type stuff. Like, oh, I want this and I want this to be my dream kitchen. I want this to be my dream bathroom, which in terms when it came to paying for it, I was working 2 jobs and I was able to save up almost half. Then the issue was the other half. I tried to get it financed, but that didn't really work out. So I had to put like $30,000 on credit cards and then borrow money and then take out a small personal loan, which was incredibly stressful, especially because my priority was paying off those high interest credit cards because that adds up really, really fast. And once I took care of that, I felt like a little bit of weight was off. And then I'm like, well, I owe these people money. And that was really stressful as well. And then the pandemic hit, which kind of made everything a little bit uncertain in terms of finances because, you know, shutdowns and businesses weren't open. So my income did get affected. So I'm hoping within the next 3 to 4 months that I'll be like free. So over here is my enclosure for my green iguana Houdini. He just turned 9, so I was really excited about that. This enclosure, which is actually a little bit different when I first had the builder do it, it was this weird contraption where it had a net basically that could fold all the way out, and it would be like this open concept, which I thought would be really cool in theory. But unfortunately, it was actually a safety hazard because the holes in the netting were so small. He would actually climb it and then his nails would latch onto the netting and he would fall. I contacted my uncle who does construction and had him redo kind of the outside of it and put plexiglass, which has worked a lot better. I named him Houdini because since I got him, since he was a tiny little thing, he's been quite the escape artist. One situation, he was actually missing for about 2 weeks. Thankfully, he's still with me. He is probably one of the highest maintenance pets that I have. So a lot of the misconception is because when you go to the pet stores, they're like these tiny little things, but people don't realize that they get this size and a lot of people can't keep up with them. So they end up being in like rescue programs and things of that nature. So if anybody's thinking of getting an iguana, this is kind of the end result in size. And an enclosure like this, you know, can be costly to make, whereas the iguana itself was only about $15, but they require lighting, you know, somewhere to bask. They do need what's called UVB, so it's for their bones and so they can metabolize calcium, and humidity is also a big factor, so the plexiglass helps a lot more than the netting that I previously had. And he's really friendly. I've hand raised him since he was tiny, so he's used to. That's not for you. This is pretty much my life every day. Just juggling, basically. So this is my kitchen. Again, I was going for kind of a farmhouse kind of vibe. I really wanted a decent amount of counter space just in case I end up cooking, which I don't really do. But I think it's always practical to have it, you know, especially if you have company and things like that. And it also works out because anytime that I am eating, this is where I'm sitting and there's enough for 2 people. So when I have guests and we get food, we'll just kind of sit here. So this was originally just supposed to be additional shelving for dishes and things like that, but it's actually worked out perfectly for cats because they use it daily to kind of get across from one loft to the other, and they'll make it all the way on top of my Iguana's enclosure. I did have to get that little shelf there above the mini split just because I didn't want the cats to be on it and being, you know, causing it to be too heavy for the mini split to take, and possibly like having it fall down or anything like that.
Thanks to Crowd Cow for sponsoring this video. You're about to encounter 60 seconds of fresh meat.
Here comes the meat. Here comes the meat.
And fish. Crowd Cow is a marketplace for high-quality meats that create a meaningful connection between the farmer and the customer, so you can know exactly where your food comes from.
But how does it work? Well, you build your own box by choosing from high-quality beef, pork, chicken, and seafood. Each cut is vacuum sealed, frozen at the peak of freshness, and then shipped in a recyclable, compostable box.
Meat for days. What we love about Crowd Cow is that you get meat that tastes better and is higher quality than the grocery store while supporting farmers that are doing it the right way. No hormones or unnecessary antibiotics. The selection is unreal too.
Look at all this meat. Isn't that good meat? Ooh! Click our link in the description and get $15 off your first order and a free membership. And for a limited time, Crowd Cow is going to put free items in the box for new members.
That's free meat. Click our link to see what's being offered right now.
I went with a big farmhouse style sink because I really love the look of them. And then this kind of looks, adds to that farmhouse charm, at least I feel like it does. And then over here is an electric stovetop. I did have to get something to cover it just because it would have been a hazard to the cats, because it is all buttons and they could probably press them when they're walking all over the place. So I typically keep this covered. I've only actually cooked in it maybe twice, so I don't really use it. I do, however, use this quite a lot. It's a microwave slash convection, I believe, because you can bake, you can cook, you can like roast a chicken or maybe a small turkey, things like that. So that's one of the things that I really wanted, because I didn't have the space in my design, at least, for a large conventional oven. Right now I'm doing a meal prep through a company in the area, and I just heat up my food and I'm good to go. I just have to watch out for the cats. Anytime I open like a refrigerator or anything like that, they'll bolt in anytime they think that there's a chance they'll get food. So this is my refrigerator. It's the perfect size for someone who lives alone, and I just fill it with stuff that is already prepped because I am not a chef by any means or any stretch of the imagination. Then I have my iguanas food, and then see, there you go. They heard the food. And then I primarily use the freezer for for the cat's food. It is frozen, and then I thaw it. It's not dinner time. So this is my primary use for the freezer currently. So as I say, this isn't really my house, it's the cat's house. So in terms of the kitchen, I really wanted a good amount of storage. Even though I'm not necessarily a cook, I thought it was better to be with than to be without, and then be like, oh, I should have done this. I got a lot of soft close drawers in this kitchen, which are really useful. This is the daily hassle. Anytime I open anything, they have to be there. And then this is just under the sink, all your normal stuff for cleaning supplies, things like that. And I really wanted to have the garbage tucked away, so this is a pull-out drawer for the garbage, which is nice, especially with cats and pets, so they're not getting into trouble. And then just some more storage. So when I was looking at parking spots for my tiny house, I was looking at different outlets. There was a tiny house page, I forgot what the name was. It was a website. Also, Facebook groups have been really helpful. There's a lot of tiny house Facebook groups, and everybody's always really eager to help or pass on knowledge through their experiences. But what I found to be the best resource, at least for my area, is Craigslist. You just type in RV parking spot or long-term RV or tiny house parking, and you'll see some here and there. Again, it was the issue that even though a few would come up, a lot of them were really strict about, bringing in guests or having pets or things like that. So it is still difficult, but my recommendation would be Craigslist. But I did come up in a few locations, and ultimately I chose this one just because the landlord is amazing. She's really easygoing, and no complaints about her. She's been great. And I do want to mention that one of the other priorities for me for finding a parking spot for my house was connections. So not everybody has sewage connection, 50 amp. Some people have composting toilets and that's great for them, but for me, I just wanted it to flush it and not have to deal with it. So that was a big thing for me, and thankfully this spot has a sewage connection. So I really like the design of the farmhouse doors, so I really wanted to make sure that was part of the design for the bathroom, and it works perfectly, especially because it doesn't open out, so it saves space. And right into here is the bathroom. My little getaway from all the chaos of all the animals. Might have gone a little bit overboard, but it's kind of like my dream little bathroom. This is just a small sink just because of the nature of a small space. I compromise on the sink to be able to take advantage of the space for other uses. I really want to make sure that I could have somewhere to store things like brooms and things like that you just kind of want out of the way. So that fits quite a lot. And I thought of even possibly adding like a rod in there for extra clothes storage. And then you have shelving, which is really helpful for all the towels, the toiletries. Then I have my handy Dyson, which is essential if you have cats and cat litter. And I really wanted kind of what my dream bathroom would be. So I kind of went a little out and wanted kind of like a luxury suite bathroom with, the tile and the tub. And I'm really happy with it. Sometimes I think about maybe I should have focused more on counter space. I could have had a washer and a dryer unit in the space, but the time that I do get to enjoy it and sit and soak in the tub and to have the view of all the greenery and all the plants, it's just worth it. So I found this to be really useful for saving kind of floor space. We're limited in tiny houses, so this is a laundry hamper that I just put up with command hooks, and it holds up really great. I just put all my dirty laundry in there, and then I can unhook it and just take it to my washer dryer. It's been really useful, and also I think it looks nice. So these are the stairs that lead up to the loft. I was really going back and forth about whether to use a ladder or stairs, but ultimately I decided on this. One of the things that I wanted was my German Shepherd to be able to climb up. However, it's kind of tricky because this has a standing area and she can't really make the jump very well all the way up to the loft, but it is useful to have stairs for storage, which really helps out a lot. Mostly in here is more cat stuff, so when I open it, you're gonna see that they're ready to eat. And this is just your normal kitchen stuff, and then again, mostly just cat stuff. So these are their treats. You want a treat? I have them on a feeding schedule because that was per recommendation of the breeder when I got my Sphinx. And no matter, even if I just feed them, like 5 minutes later, they'll be ready to eat again. And then sometimes I'll just close the door. Especially because my iguana poops in the tub, sometimes I'll open this and they'll go in there for 5 minutes while I clean out the tub with the iguana poop. And they'll be distracted in there for a couple minutes. And then this is additional storage. I have pretty much all my jeans here. This is your typical junk drawer, which is huge, which is perfect for a junk drawer. And then one more drawer down here just for additional like gym stuff. And then I have my washer dryer combo. This is really important because when you're limited on space, you need something that's, not going to take up as much of a footprint. And this takes up a lot less space than a washer and a dryer. But I'm really happy with it. It does take a while for the loads to go through because of the dry cycle, and sometimes they will come a little bit damp, but usually I'll just leave them in the loft and they'll dry pretty quickly. And you will notice some shaking in the house when you have it on. I've been living tiny going on 4 years, I believe now. It should be 4 years coming up in October. I mean, the whole thing is a bit of a learning process, especially because when I was doing it, I didn't really mention too much to anybody. So I kind of jumped into it myself and like having to figure out the hookups and things like that and leveling and, you know, wanting to make sure that you're doing it right and just little things like that. And then I think a lot of people don't realize that it's kind of like a normal home in the way that there's always maintenance, little things that come up, you know, even if you're buying a brand new house, things come up. That's been the biggest thing. I've kind of had to learn or YouTube, like how to fix a toilet. And yeah, you just have to jump into it and learn as you go. And we can go up and check out the loft. So this is my loft, my little slice of heaven, I guess. Up here, this is pretty much my primary clothes storage. It's a good amount of space for one person. I don't really buy a lot of clothing, so it works out perfectly. And it's kind of nice to be able to stand here and pick out the clothes and not be in a cramped space. The skylight was one of the things that I mentioned in the design when Nick was going through it with me. And it's one of the best things ever. It adds headroom, and I didn't know it initially, but it's actually a perfect place for my iguana to get natural sun. So I'll just open up the window and he'll just bask right here. I have my TV. I don't use it that often. I don't really have time for it. I'm usually tired. I usually just pass out. And then in tiny houses, I think it's really important to have windows on both sides because it is a loft and heat tends to rise up. It can get pretty hot up here. I would say if you're like at a high 70, 80, just having the windows open is enough with the breeze flowing through to kind of cool the space down. And then additionally, I can open the skylight and that kind of lets some of that hot air escape. And the downside, however, of the skylight is that it does kind of act like a greenhouse. So it kind of traps heat if you do have it open. So I really wanted to make sure I had something. So I bought this nice blind. So it just easily closes if you want privacy or if it's a hot day and you want to take a nap or something like that. It really encloses the space and makes it feel cozy. Living alone in a tiny house is probably the best thing ever, especially in such a confined space. It's kind of nice to just be able to sit down. I'll put like a record on and just lie in bed with my cats on a day that I have off and just lie there for hours and just let the record play. I don't feel like I'm waiting for the bathroom, which is when I was living with my parents, it was always a hassle of who's in the bathroom. You have to go to work and things like that. Now I wake up, I don't worry about it. I take a shower at my leisure and, you know, tend to my pets and then just, it's really relaxing, especially on a quiet day in the summer when you have beautiful sunsets and just put on a good record. It's the best.
Thank you for watching our video and for stopping by Tiny House Expedition. I'm Alexis.
And I'm Christian. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And for more tiny home tours and stories, click the videos below.
And join us on Patreon for bonus content,
including face-to-face conversations with us. We hope to see you there.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Thanks again to our video sponsor, CrowdCow. See the link in the description to get $15 off your first order and get free items too.